Now we're still on how do soils form, that big question. Well, this presentation, you're going to be focusing on clorpt for short. C-L-O-R-P-T. So keep on remembering that clorpt, and you will never forget how soils form. So the factors of formation include climate. So that first Cl in clorpt is going to be climate, and that could be temperature, rainfall, etc. The O is for organisms, and this is different plants, grassland, conifers, deciduous plants, animals that are burrowing, insects, ants, termites, microorganisms, and decomposers as well. The R in relief, and this is topography, the position on the landscape that relates to drainage and water movement. And that P is going to be for parent material, and parent material is the geologic material that soil developed from. And lastly, T in time, and that's how long the soil has been developing or weathering for. Now, I know we touched on this earlier, but the soil scientist Hans Jenny originally came up with the idea of that 5 factors in 1942. And the biggest part of this to understand is no one factor is more important to the formation of soil in the grand scheme of everything. So climate is the Cl in clorpt. It includes all aspects of climate from temperature to rainfall, snowfall to wind, and the amount of sunlight as well. And something to think about with climate, it's as temperature increases, weathering also increases. Rain or water is also added, and that increases weathering as well. So all of those combined may increase or decrease that weathering. That's why temperature is so important, especially temperature, but also the moisture as well. So here we have, the tropics versus the desert. So soil develops fastest in that warm, moist climate and slowest in cold and arid ones. It's also going to develop very slow and hot and dry climates as well. But for the most part, that warm and moist climates is really where it's going to flourish. Organisms is the O in clorpt. Organisms also, with the roots that give off CO2 and organic acids that break down minerals and other organic materials. We have bacteria and fungi and worms, those decomposers, that help to break down that organic matter as well. So roots can physically break rocks to allow for water to enter and further weather the soil. Roots and lichens and other biological factors all combine to form the soil. The carbon dioxide combines with water to make a weak acid with the other weathers that part, and that also enhances weathering. We also have water leaching through the decomp of leaf litter, particularly with the coniferous litter. Because this creates more organic acids that further leach and weather the soil. Now we have relief. Relief is the R in clorpt. It's also known as topography, and then topography or the slope position can greatly influence soil development. The shape and the aspect is where the surface actually faces, affects soil development as well. Steep slopes show less development as they are likely to erode and are also unstable. And we have south-facing slopes, and I would write this down, that south-facing slopes in the northern hemisphere will show more development as they are warmer. Stable and or flat landscapes will show more development. Here it's very flat. It's nice and flat as we see where the crops are. And when more development occurs, especially when it's stable and flat, a deeper and more horizons also occur. Also in these areas, maybe an area where more particles or the sediment from upslope may accumulate. Soils change on a landscape, but depending on where it is on the slope, this right here shows the names of the parts of the landscape. And the next slide shows what the soil will look like at each position. Soil color changes based on the landscape position. You can see the well-drained soil at summit is red, and that's more or well oxidized or rusty. As soil may get gray downslope as water remains in the profile longer. This first causes the soil to have a few gray splotches or mottling that may occur. But when the soil is saturated for long periods, this may dominantly have a gray color as seen in the drainage wave profile. Or soil color can change from bright red to yellow to gray and further down in the profile that you'll get. So parent material is the P in chlorpt. And just as you and I have parents, so do soils. Many of soil properties, as ours, are inherited from our parents, and you'll see this coming up again and again. Parent material can be broken down to three basic groups. We have transported material, bedrock material, and organic materials. The group consisting of transported material is further subdivided based upon the media that transported the sediment. And this could include water transported or deposited with marine, fluvial, or lacustrine, wind transported with alluvium, gravity transported with colluvium, and ice transported with glacial. Let's start with marine. These are the areas adjacent to the coast containing multiple environments for sediment. These sediments are deposited in this area. Term marine sediments are deposited in a salt to brackish water. Fluvial deposits are sediments deposited either in the active stream channel or on the floodplain associated with the channel. These sediments are coarser near the channel where the water is moving fastest. Soils can also be developed in place from the underlying bedrock. These are referred to as residual materials. The soil developed from these materials inherit properties from the rock and the manner in which the rock weathers both physically and chemically. Lastly, we have time, and time is the T in chlorpt. More development means more horizons, a redder color in the B, more clay in the B. However, time does not always just mean true age. For example, a soil in Antarctica will show very little development and appear young since it's not highly weathered. On the other hand, in the tropics, where it's very warm and wet, the conditions where they love those conditions the most, will show more development as compared to the Antarctic. Even though that in the Antarctic, the soil is a lot more older than in the tropics. You can even compare with soils in northern US and Canada are a lot younger as compared to those in Southeast. And this is due to obviously the glaciers being in northern US and Canada compared to the glaciers not being in the southern US.